we've got deterrence lost in Europe. We have deterrence lost in the Middle East. We are on the cusp of losing that very deterrent model in Asia as well. One could argue that elements of that have already been lost. Chairman Kim, who I spent way too much time with, Chairman Kim has now talked about the absence of any desire for peaceful reunification with the Republic of Korea. That is a change that is important. I was in Guyana 2 weeks ago. They are frightened by Maduro and his efforts to retake, in his words, much as Xi Jinping talks about reunifying, retake what is rightfully theirs. This is a challenge that is linked. It's not just about one of these theaters, one of these zones, one of these regions, but these are all deeply linked to whether America will have the resolve, determination, and capacity to deter and maintain the order that we have benefited, that Americans have benefited from since the post-Cold War order was established. We know that this conflict largely begins with economics. The Chinese Communist Party has been at war with the United States economy for at least 20 years. One could argue 40. It might well have made sense for the esteemed Dr. Kissinger to go and travel and open up relationships with the Chinese Communist Party back in 1972. It might have made sense in 1982. It made no sense by 2002, 2012, and certainly today makes no sense. It's dangerous for the United States to allow the Chinese Communist Party to have engaged here at home in ways that undermine the very foundations of our republic. And I know I'll get asked about this today, but I think it's important that when we think of the challenge from the Chinese Communist Party, we think not only about Taiwan, not only about the South Pacific and about the First Island chain, but about Los Angeles and Denver and Washington, D.C. and Chicago and my home state of Kansas. The Chinese Communist Party is working diligently inside the gates to undermine everything it is that we stand for. When he talks about American decline, he is not doing so passively. He is an advocate. He is working to achieve that very American decline here at home. The last thought. Secretary Panetta, it is great to be with you here today, and I think it's important for America to see that this challenge is not remotely about politics. It is not remotely partisan. It is so much more fundamental than that. I have been critical of many of President Biden's foreign policy actions, but I must say the work that they continue to do to confront the challenge of China, I have approved and appreciated. I always knew that we could do more. They could do more as well, and I'm counting on this committee to help us get to that place. When we put sanctions in place, we can't immediately turn around and create loopholes. When we put in place economic orders that suggest how America ought to proceed, we cannot let our adversaries, whether they be from Russia, escape those sanctions regime, and we have to make sure that our friends comply with them as well. This will require temerity from each of us. The Chinese Communist Party is not about to give in because of some great speech that someone gives, some set of wonderful remarks, or a set of meetings held in San Francisco or Beijing or Washington, D.C. They are determined. They will push back against our actions, and we need to make sure that we hold the Chinese Communist Party at risk in the same way that they seek to put America at risk each day. If we get that piece right, the tactics, the operational pieces, we'll get those. A strong United States military, capable diplomatic corps, and a robust American economy can deliver those outcomes in a way that will give us the chance that 250 years from now, the 76th or 79th Secretary of State can sit here with his Democrat counterpart from a previous administration and still have the opportunity to defend what we hold most sacred. Thanks for giving me the chance to be with you all today. I look forward to your questions. Thank you for those.
China's doing exactly the same thing, using artificial intelligence very effectively to spread disinformation and misinformation in this country. So that, I think, remains a significant concern, that at a time when they talk about dialogue and the time when they talk about trying to improve relations, we cannot underestimate their efforts to basically undermine our democracy.
I give just two quick thoughts. I agree with Secretary Panetta that we should never forget this information space in social media and how the Chinese Communist Party has communist-directed entities that are on every one of our children's cell phones, passing information that is deeply filtered, designed for our young people here to undermine their idea and their understanding of America and our foundational ideas. We have to take serious action there. Second thought, it seems like a long time ago, but don't forget, this is the very Xi Jinping that unleashed a virus upon the world, that killed millions of people, including over 1 million people in the United States. It gets seldom referenced. It's hard to imagine the staggering impact that COVID had on the world, and yet no one's held Xi Jinping accountable, not for the leak from his lab, which happened, but for the fact that once he was aware that he had a leak from his lab of a relatively lethal, relatively contagious virus, he foisted it upon the world. He made a decision to hide the data, to hide the information, to off the researchers, and to put thousands of people on airplanes and transit them across the world with the death and destruction and the economic harm that followed from that. This is the very same Xi Jinping that is working here in the United States.
But there's no question in my mind that Xi has been cornered in a number of ways, both in the way he dealt with COVID as well as the way he's dealing with his economy. There is one fundamental focus that Xi has. It's on China. It's on China. And his problem right now is that China is eroding from under him. And I think that makes him more dangerous, not less.
I concur. Secretary Panetta dealt with a very different Xi Jinping than we dealt with over time. He changed his objective, he created more power, I think, gave him more freedom to move, and I think it's much more likely that he will continue his, if not militarily, his political efforts to bring political control to Taiwan. No, I actually think their primary motivation is ideological. It is, Xi Jinping is driven by a Marxist-Leninist ideology, a historic understanding of China as the middle kingdom of the central actor on the world stage, and he feels there is that their history has been wronged by the Western order. And so economics is a tool by which he seeks to achieve the global hegemony that he so seeks, but I think the motivation is much deeper and much darker than just trying to figure out how to make a few more renminbi for his people. This is not an effort to improve life for the Chinese people. This is an effort for aggregation of power for the Chinese Communists.